overall, a Republican Congress is really good about limiting harmful, burdensome regulations on our industry, and having a Trump White House magnifies that because he is certainly known for his interest in pulling back regulations that simply don't make sense.
In line now, welcome back. Colin Long joins me now. He is the Director of Government Affairs at OOIDA. Colin, nice to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here live in person.
Yes, it's nice to have you in Kansas City. So it's been almost 2 weeks now since we learned that former President Donald Trump will soon become our current president. Now, I think whenever there's a shift in power, there's, of course, a lot of questions about what's going to happen in regards to certain issues. And I assume you have all those answers.
Definitely. If anyone in Washington has the answers, it's me.
It's Colin Long.
I don't think anyone in Washington can confidently say that, even all the way up to the closest folks to the president, because there are a lot of dynamics at play here.
Well, we will speculate and give our best guess.
Some things we have some pretty strong indications that they'll go in a certain direction, but otherwise there's a lot of things that are up in the air and will crystallize over the next several weeks when we start understanding who's in leadership positions, both in the White House and in Congress, and what opportunities they may have based on some of the dynamics playing out between Republicans and Democrats in the House and the Senate.
That's one thing I'll start with, because I think a lot of people see these news stories and they say, President-elect Trump has chose this person for this, this person for that. That's not like in stone yet. Is that right?
No, I think most of the time the Senate, who is responsible for accepting nominations, or I should say approving nominations, gives pretty wide deference to the president. He or she would choose the people they feel are best suited to lead the organizations under their direction. And I think the Senate, especially a Senate that is controlled by the president's party, will be very accommodating. You'll get tough questions, and there will be things from an oversight and transparency perspective that everyone wants to address during the nomination, or the confirmation, I should say, process. But this one feels a little different. I don't know that it's going to affect Department of Transportation. We tend to be viewed as a kind of boring, straightforward department, which is actually how we prefer it. But some of the other ones might gum up the works, which would certainly have an effect on DOT secretary, on nominees for FHWA and FMCSA, other agencies under the DOT umbrella that we care about. And we'll see how those play out, because recently the president's made some pretty wild, I shouldn't say wild, some pretty aggressive nominations for other departments and agencies. And that could cause some strife within the Senate, which, like I said, could have some sort of a trickle-down effect to DOT as that nominee gets nominated and starts moving through the process. So we'll wait and see. But traditionally, DOT has been less controversial. Positions like Attorney General, Secretary of Homeland Security, a lot of the intelligence positions can get a little dicey, but Department of Transportation is usually pretty straightforward. And I don't want to say they cruise through the process, because there's always hiccups, but they generally have an easier time getting confirmed.
All right. Now, a few of the issues that I know have been weighing on people's minds for years now. Truck parking is a big one. I know there's a bill currently in the House and Senate. What's your outlook on that with the new administration coming in?
If it doesn't get done, I'm just going to...
You're done. Throwing your hands up.
I'm going to hang up the suit and tie and find a new career, because we've done everything we can to get this done. And now we have a very favorable environment that we're entering in 2025 and 2026, because the vice president-elect happens to be a supporter of truck parking. He, as a senator, J.D. Vance, co-sponsored the legislation, said, yes, this is a priority that I agree needs to get done. So we hope that continues as he moves into a new and bigger role within the White House. But, we've done enough groundwork, we believe, over the years to really make 2025 and 2026, depending on the schedule, a breakthrough for us on truck parking. I mean, it's got more support in the House and the Senate than it ever has. It's still a very broad bipartisan bill. We've got a lot of influential people on board from a committee standpoint. The House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has already passed the bill. I mean, we're as close as we've ever been to a breakthrough on truck parking. And I think looking at 2025, we're going to have some good things to report. And like I said, if we don't, you won't be hearing from me because I will have retired.
Another thing, speed limiters. Where are we with that? And then are we hoping for changes as we move into the new year?
We're hoping for a change in the speed limiter debate by seeing it go by the wayside, to be totally honest. And there's two things I want to talk about here. One is elections have consequences, that age-old adage. And in this case, it's a good one for truckers because, again, J.D. Vance, not a fan of speed limiters. He supports our efforts to prevent a speed limiter mandate, has co-sponsored legislation in the Senate, so that bodes well for us. But overall, a Republican Congress is really good about limiting harmful, burdensome regulations on our industry, and having a Trump White House magnifies that because he is certainly known for his interest in pulling back regulations that simply don't make sense. We think speed limiters in the world of trucking and the Department of Transportation should be top of that list because it makes no sense. It's burdensome. It's really harmful for small businesses. It's going to take safety in the wrong direction. The list goes on and on and on. The second point I want to make is bravo to truckers and frankly to OOIDA, who's been leading the charge against speed limiters, for drawing out the rulemaking process at the Department of Transportation over the years with 15,000 comments aggressively opposed, with legislation in the House and the Senate that says you will go no further with that speed limiter mandate that hasn't been signed into law, but we've been gathering support for it. Provisions within spending bills for the Department of Transportation that says you're not going to be allowed to use any of your funding to go forward. That has all extended the amount of time the agency is capable of producing a final rule, and frankly, making it less and less appealing for them to do so. So we bought enough time over the last couple of years to get to a Trump administration where the likelihood of them continuing the work that the Biden administration has done on speed limiters is very, very slim in our mind. Now, we can't let our guard down. There's certainly going to be folks who wanted to see the Department of Transportation do a lot of the dirty work so they didn't have to in the halls of Congress. And now they're going to say, well, let's use the legislative branch to try and get this done. But that's an uphill fight for them, and we're pleased about that. And we still have our coalition in place to fight the speed limiter mandate, which we think will be even stronger in a Republican Congress. So things are looking pretty good on speed limiters. We're very hopeful about that, but we're also proud of the work we did over the years to make sure that rulemaking never produced a final mandate. And that could not have been done without truckers being their own best advocates and submitting lots of comments saying, how dare you even consider this because of the impact it's going to have on my safety and on my business. And then the work of OOIDA. I mean, we're going to toot our own horn because we have been leading the coalition against speed limiters. I mean, we've been the most influential force in Washington against speed limiters, and now we're going to do a little crowing if it goes by the wayside, which we anticipated doing.
All right. Now let's turn to autonomous trucks. Where are we currently with those, and what do you foresee the future looking like? Especially, we've seen how close President-elect Trump is with Elon Musk. Is there any concern there?
There's always concern, and it's a lot of frustration too, especially, and it's frustration to share. You can blame Congress for talking about the need to pass autonomous vehicle legislation and never getting it done. I mean, they don't get much done, but they've been talking about this one for a while, and they've been fairly close, we thought, to getting something done on autonomous vehicles. Even if it was just passenger vehicles, that's a start, and it would frame the conversation about heavy trucks in the autonomous field. Shame or frustration also towards federal regulators who we think have really missed an opportunity to ensure safety on our roads by putting some requirements and guardrails in place on AV technology development and deployment. None of that has happened, despite the fact there's ample evidence that these trucks specifically are not necessarily meeting the expectations, or I should say the public relations or marketing that a lot of the businesses who want to capitalize on them have been promising. And really, they have a negative effect on safety, and we're just allowing it to happen. So this is one of those areas where I don't really know what to predict on AVs because you're right. I mean, Elon Musk has become a very influential figure in the Trump administration, or I should say President-elect Trump's administration. But I'm not sure what totally to expect from either Congress or the White House on autonomous vehicles. And there's an appreciation that goes along with that frustration from our perspective, that we appreciate the fact that members of Congress and federal regulators view autonomous vehicles as an emerging technology that the United States should be ahead of the world on. And we have everything we should have to win the race for autonomous vehicles. And they're just a little too gun shy to come in and exert the same kind of oversight when it comes to safety that they impose on our members. We think autonomous vehicles, whether or not they have a driver behind the wheel, should face the same type of safety regulations that our members face. I mean, people talk about what happens when an autonomous vehicle is pulled over. Do they have to put reflective indicators on the road to let folks who are driving know, well, there's a shutdown truck? And how is that going to be done without a driver? I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of folks see that as some sort of an impediment to the deployment of autonomous vehicles, whereas we see it as a key safety factor that should be taken care of immediately. It should be at the forefront when folks are talking about the deployment of autonomous technology. And instead, they're so afraid to limit the rapid development and deployment that they're missing a lot of these opportunities to ensure that they're actually doing it in a safe manner.
Now, when it comes to electric trucks, I know President Biden had a big plan to have more of those on the road. Where do you see that going?
That's another one that could potentially fall by the wayside simply because, Republicans have been very critical of the Biden administration's approach to electronic vehicles. And frankly, so have we. And we welcome that critical look that we anticipate a Republican majority in both the House and the Senate taking on electric vehicles. We've been having debates, negotiations about whether or not truck parking should include electric vehicle charging systems. And obviously, OOIDA is very against that. But I think our side of the equation just got much easier simply because the Democrats won't be writing the next highway bill. And it's going to be a challenge for them to try to continue a lot of the preferential treatment for EVs, a lot of the incentives for EVs that have been going on over the years. And we're thankful for that, too, because, our members don't necessarily see a future where they're driving electric vehicles, if I'm being totally honest. Not simply because we're not quite there yet with the technology, but no one has told them what's going to happen with the weight. These heavy vehicles are even heavier when they're electric vehicles. What's going to happen with all the safety requirements? I mean, what's going to happen with the charging infrastructure? I just mentioned we have concerns about that. Those are serious concerns because we just don't see it happening in the next 5-10 years. So when we're talking about a highway bill specifically, and we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on highway bill because it will be reauthorized in the next Congress in 2025, 2026, we don't think there needs to be much of a focus on EVs because we have a lot more timely things to take care of in a highway bill that lasts 5 to 6 years. So it's tough to say on EVs again, though, because there is this Musk factor where we know he is certainly interested in seeing greater deployment of electric vehicles because it's good for business, frankly. There are people speculating, well, maybe there will be a cooling effect and Tesla has done such a good job of kind of dominating the market that they'll be happy with this cooling effect because they're already the dominant force in EVs. And it's difficult to say what to anticipate. But I think our concerns about EVs starting to consume more funding and more attention in the next highway bill are less serious than they had been prior to the election when we were considering the reality of a Harris White House, a Democratic majority in the House or the Senate or both or whatever may come. And now that it's a red trifecta, we think we're much better positioned to prevent a lot of that funding that is needed now from going to a technology that is not yet ready for showtime.
All right. Colin, thank you so much.
That's it. All right.
That's it. You made it.
That flew by. Thanks.